Hi, I'm Mark Halpert from 3D Learner.
And I'm Mira Halpert from 3D Learner. Welcome. We're glad to have you this Tuesday night. Hope you're beginning of summer vacation. For those of you who have started summer vacation, I know there are a number of you that have another week or two of school in this hot weather, even in New England. We're glad you're here, and we're glad to join us. We're talking tonight about school choice for your right brain learner. Sometimes it is the right choice, sometimes it is not, but in any event, we're here to help you sort out what the best thing for you to be able to do. We're going to wait for about another 20 or 30 seconds, and then we'll get started tonight. Please, if you are seeing this live, we're glad to have you. If you're seeing this on a recorded, please don't hesitate to make comments and questions, and we will do our best to be able to try and get back to you just as soon as we can. This is a very hot topic that's been something that we've worked with for a number of years, but this year seems to be even more of an issue as parents are trying to be able to sort out where the best place to be able to have their kids go to school might be. With that, Mark, I guess maybe we can try.
Go for it. Hi, Mark Halpert here from 3D Learner, joined by my wife.
Good evening.
Tonight we're going to be talking about some insights on school choice for the right brain learner. Right brain learner is a smart kid who learns differently, makes up about 62% of the student population, and probably about 80-90% of the kids who are smart but struggling. One of the things in Florida, we're probably the hotbed of school choice. Our governor is a huge fan. And one of the things we want to share tonight is all the options may or may not be good for your child, but they're actually not the solution that's going to solve most of the problems. We'd love to have you if you're here. Join us, comment, tell us where your name, where you're from, and if you have any questions, feel free to post them.
And also, what you've chosen. Is your child in a public school, a public charter school, a private school, homeschool, out school? There are certainly those. We'd like to be able to get your input, because we know that, and listen, as parents, we were there as well. And believe me, I think our kids did absolutely everything. We lived overseas. We had private schools. We had public schools. We had charter schools, and we've helped hundreds of homeschool children. So,
and we also had our kids go to Stoneman Douglas High School, which brings its own stories, which we will not go into tonight.
Okay.
So, some of our core beliefs. One, public, private, charter, homeschool are all valid options for kids. Okay, we don't have any preconceived notions that one's necessarily better than the other. What we describe on the right is a typical right brain learner, the kid who learns best when they see and experience information, who often has working memory, processing speed, and/or attention issues, and their eyes often have trouble focusing on the written word, and sometimes they have trouble motor planning, integrating the two sides of their body. None of these options really address those issues that are specific to the right brain learner.
Well, most schools don't address them.
Schools don't. And the best solution is often a combination of the right school with the right programs and parents knowing how to be the coach and advocate for your kid.
Let's be honest. It really starts and ends with the parents. The parents recognizing how their kids learn best, and the parents, as Mark said, being that coach and maybe coach and quarterback about trying to be able to sort out how to be able to balance everything and do everything that works best for you, that particular child. And oh, by the way, if you have more than one child, they can all have completely different sorts of learning styles and learning needs. And yes, we need to be that same coach and advocate for them as well.
And 5 common challenges that these kids often have is reading comprehension tends to be an issue. Sometimes arithmetic is, but math word problems are almost always an issue. Handwriting can be an issue, but putting their thoughts on paper could sometimes just have these kids freeze. And anxiety and frustration seem to be their middle name. And self-esteem and self-advocacy are really important for them. And these are the 5 things that most schools don't teach the way these kids learn or address the issues in a way that works for them. First of all, let's describe.
Does this look familiar? This was a familiar scene in our household at one point, I do have to say. Or maybe it was Mark and I that had this familiar scene. But nevertheless, these are the kids. This is what's happening. This is what they're thinking. And when they don't get something, they really shut down. And that's when parents call us with help. What can we do to be?
Now, one of the common risks that public school activists will often share is that if a child leaves a public school and goes to especially a private school, they'll lose their special education service, their 504 accommodations. Those are valuable, but they're not necessarily a reason to stay if the situation's not working. The other thing that often disappears is public school services are free. Private schools, we know, local private school here charges a lot of money, and then they charge an extra $10,500. Another charges $17,000 for a special needs kid. So it can get expensive. The other thing that's interesting to note, and this is not true of all schools, but teachers and special education professionals at private schools and charter schools may not be of the same caliber as the public school teachers, which is where most graduates from top schools tend to go. They tend to go to public schools. The other thing which we've noticed, and this is something that's a little scary about when kids leave public schools, sometimes they fall behind in reading and nobody knows. We recently had a case where a young lady was 6 years below grade 11 reading comprehension, and the parents weren't aware of it in that private school setting. Public schools tend to be a little bit better, but even as you go up in grade, in the early grades, they may know where your child's at, but too often parents lose sight of where their kid's at, and the gap widens. And the other thing is that sometimes parents will tell us, I'm already spending $22,000 or $32,000 or one
or more,
$65,000 in a private school, and I don't have money to do the things outside that I really know my kid needs.
And especially going back to what Mark and I were talking about earlier about all the processing skills and the executive function and the motor planning, those are not necessarily programs unless you have a specifically specialized school. And that's not really what we're talking about. We're really talking about the fact that I am just so frustrated with where my child is at right now that I just want to be able to pull them out and put them in this private school where they tell me that they won't be so small and nurturing that they can handle, and that they tell you this at the beginning of the school year. And so often we get calls by even October, let alone sort of December or January, that their families are just so unhappy because where they thought they were going to get the support, they did not.
And two of the other risks, especially for a struggling student, is a lot of private schools pride themselves, and sometimes this is a real strength, of being a year ahead of their public school peers. Their curriculum is that much more challenging. And that makes it much more difficult for a child who's maybe leaving public school after 3rd grade and jumping into 4th grade when that 4th grade is actually operating like a 5th grade would in a public school setting. And the other risk we've seen, which is not true in every school, but we've seen it more this past year than any other time in history, private schools are full. And sometimes they'll dismiss a kid from their school, sometimes for behavior, sometimes for performance issues, but they're basically in a position where they can dictate who stays and who goes. And charter schools have done that too, where they don't have to keep a child in school. They may have to accept them, but they don't have to keep them.
Which is why this topic is really important now and today versus where it may have been 2 or 3 or 4 years ago. We do know that, as Mark just said, people are in throes being able to go, wanting to get into certain private schools or home schools or their schools. And you may have had a perfect experience for a child 4 or 5 years ago that their school seemed fine, that they could handle it. We're just finding now that they're actually able to, and they'll put it on themselves. Oh, it's really us that don't, we just can't serve your child like we think they can, which at some level, maybe they're being honest, but that's the challenge.
Private school options and charter school options have some clear benefits. Okay,
Sure.
They may be a safer environment. They may have smaller class sizes. They may offer better music, art, and other programs. They may not require remedial classes, which means kids can have more electives, and some offer desired religious training. And also, in some cases, especially with third grade retention or other, parents don't think their kid really should be retained, and they want to move to fourth grade. And I just put up a warning. That could be right if you're getting the right outside help to get your child back to grade level. But it's a much higher risk if you move them and don't get them the help, because again, they may be going into a fourth grade, it's operating at a fifth grade level, and they're at the second grade level. So the benefits are real, but so are the risks.
Right.
Now, just a little background on the risks facing these kids. And the chart on the left refers to the fact that almost 90% of the first graders with a reading problem will have a reading problem in fourth grade. And as the numbers say, 74% of the kids in third grade with a reading disability or dyslexia will still have a problem in 12th grade. So these problems not only continue and persist, but they actually widen. As the chart on the right shows, 45% of the kids in special education, middle and high school, were reading 3 to 5 years below grade level, and an additional 21% are reading 5 or more years. And this is not limited to low socioeconomic, right? This is a problem we've seen in the best of families, okay? The gaps have widened, and the pandemic has made the gaps widen. We've seen some families where one kid probably is a grade further ahead than they would have been, and the other kid's probably a grade below where he would have been. The pandemic had, so to speak, the rich got richer. That is, the kid who read a lot surged ahead, and the kid who struggled is struggling more.
So we're going to go back to this question again. We've talked a little bit about how being wary as well as optimistic, but certainly being clear about your right brain learner. But what exactly is a right brain learner? Which is, we at 3D Learner pride ourselves as being, these are the kids that we absolutely love working with, and we understand them. I am one, so I get that piece. 2 of our 4 kids were, so I know what the parent piece of that is. So, and we've worked with over 25 years. We've worked with thousands of kids, tens of thousands of parents, and doing teacher training. But exactly who is that right brain learner? A right brain learner is, as this cute cartoon shows, the kid that's really global learner. That's the big picture. Can't always be, I'm going to say brought down or put back to what the details are. They love being able to go with the details once they have the big idea. It's a big picture. Whereas the left brain learner is that logical, sequential, usually very auditory, meaning that they follow verbal directions. Us visual people, not so great with the verbal directions unless we have a clear picture of what those directions mean. So here, obviously, this child has a clear picture about what the thing is, that he's to build an airplane, and he's going to put those pieces together that builds that. So we've come over the last, we've honed down all kinds of questions, but what we really zeroed in on is that does your child kind of look for? Does your child remember places visited even from years ago? I was sitting actually in a salon about a month ago, and I was listening to 2 women talk about the fact that, I can't quite get over that my 12-year-old can remember where we went when he was 3. I am just dumbfounded. And yes, they can go back and they can visualize it in their mind as if they were really there. And she was like, I can't believe they remembered it. Does your child learn best when they see and experience information that those are the things they really remember? And do they know, does your child know where to go because of visual cues, right? It's like if your child is, I tell parents all the time that they had a difficult time finding us, and I'm saying, well, the next time follow your child because they will know exactly where to turn. it's a little rough if they change the color of the house because you have to turn where the green house was, but nevertheless, it's so interesting about how kids zero in on visual cues. And parents are always sort of looking at Google Maps or their list of words to be able to know how to be able to go. Mark is a perfect example of someone who is awesome at remembering numbers and addresses and figures out where something is from the direction about numbered streets and addresses, because he's very logical and he can sort of sort that out. And I can't remember.
And I'm a New Yorker.
Where that was logical and they did it sequentially, right? And then the other question is does your child get confused with lots of wordy explanations? And yet when you show them what to do, they take off. It's what we call an aha moment. And it's truly how we've talked about this in the last couple of sessions about how these kids go from aha moment to aha moment. And that's how they learn best. But that aha moment comes from when they own it, they get it, they've experienced it. So we do ask these questions about, is my child a right brain learner? So aside from the questions that we just put to you in the last slide, it's like, does your child think in creative ways? Whoops. That went best. Okay. So they think
I got to go back. I'll keep going. I'll get us out of here.
The question really is, here we go. One thing or the other. Do they think in creative ways? And do they truly have, nope. We're going to start all over again.
I'm going to get out of here.
Thank you. One more technical glitch. That would be nice if I knew what that was, but it's totally understanding what your right brain learner is. Oh, you got to love technology. We have the right thing going. So welcome tonight. We're really, all right. There we go. Oops. I think it was the one before it.
Yes, we'll go on from here. Go ahead.
All right. So when they talk about if they're creative and they're creative problem solvers and they truly visualize, sometimes they have not learned. This is where 3D learners come in, and what I've helped thousands of students is when they have actually, these kids are trying to learn like everyone else. So I find that they are holding their pens really hard, or they're even holding their fists, and they're trying to remember, and they're saying words over and over again versus actually really having them teach them how to be able to learn to visualize and use their visualization skills. But some of the issues that are not identified or addressed for the right brain learner, and how we can identify them by what they can't do, is that they have a difficult time with word recognition or high frequency vocabulary. You know, those words that we had to be able to have our kids memorize in kindergarten, but first and second grade, there was just come home with a list of 10 words or 15 words, and they just had to know what they were. Quite honestly, these kids are really the ones that, in order to learn those words, they need to be able to know what they mean for them, from their own usage and from their own experience. Vocabulary, they have a difficult time learning vocabulary. It's interesting because they're talkers, and sometimes they'll use words that, if they're around a number of adults, they'll use adult language, but they have a difficult time understanding exactly when you stop them and what does that actual word mean, and they go, ooh, I'm not sure I know. Also, multiple meaning words trip them up all the time, and you look at them and there's like, what's wrong? And they go, I just don't understand what that means because I have a picture of that word meaning something else. In fact, we just had this funny discussion about our own house, about the fact that we have a window pane that was broken with a golf ball, which is really kind of funny. And yes, it's a pain. But if we actually had that, didn't understand what those two words meant, I'd be in really deep trouble. Okay. You want to take this one, Mark?
Sure. One thing I want to talk about is in relation to school choice. Sometimes we'll get a call from a parent who wants their kid to be promoted to fourth grade, or who wants their kid to succeed at a private school, and their goals become our goals. Okay, so we've had times where psychologists have told parents, take the name of that private school out of your vocabulary because your kid's not going to be able to get accepted there. If they get accepted, they're not going to be able to succeed. The kid wound up finishing the school, which is one of the top schools in the area, is valedictorian. Because the kid had the potential, was a clear visual learner, had some executive function challenges, committed parents, kind of the perfect storm for us. We knew exactly how to help him. And the mom said, you changed his attitude, and that was 90% of the battle. So sometimes, and this is not always true, but in most cases, we can help the parents get their kids so they can succeed in the environment the parents want. And I want to make it clear, that's not going to be a caveat that's always true. But it's been true probably 90% of the time, because these kids are often a lot smarter than present results would indicate. And parents usually have reasonable expectations. Their kids just don't have the skills yet. And first thing
also remember, they are also pleasers, and they really want to please. And their self-talk is usually so very difficult. And let's remember, words create pictures and create an emotion. And it's just as easy for them to go in that downward spiral versus we really like to be able to show this upward spiral. Makes a huge difference.
And when they change their attitude, and you learn how to become a much more effective coach and advocate, then when they learn how to visualize what they're reading, they become much more excited, because they're actually creating a video for what they're reading. And because when you're working with 3D learner, they're improving their attention, their neural timing, their visual processing skills. They're able to be better at sports. We've helped kids get golf scholarships, swimming scholarships, baseball scholarships, football scholarships, basketball scholarships, because the same things that improve academics improve athletics.
Exactly. Okay.
And you get significant improvements in reading speed and comprehension, reduce homework time, test scores improve. And really, when it comes to school choice, it helps you have the choice of what school you want to send the kid to, rather than their academic performance providing some limitations. And it allows them to qualify for more challenging schools, more challenging classes. And these kids are often very capable of doing that. And it frees up your time and money and time for your kid to be a kid, which is what it's all about.
And more than anything, it also makes it possible for you and for others around to see how this kid really shines, because they can be some of the most outrageous creative thinkers and inventors and come up with so many different things. And they're when they feel comfortable and that they feel that they are listened to and that they're understood about what their needs are being met, it's incredible the kinds of things that they can come up with.
And one of the side benefits a mom alluded to was, she said, you took my kids' homework time from 2.5 hours down to about 1.25 hours. You cut it in half, but you cut down my time from about 2.5 hours to 15 minutes. And it saved me like 300 hours in a year, which is a lot.
Huge.
So, in the first 3 keys to success, 1, parents adopted the attitude that success is the only option. When a parent changes their attitude and they say, there is a way, when we make them aware that there is a way forward to get your child to be much more successful. And then the next step is really assessing for success. Because as 3D learner, what we do is we assess for not only how a kid learns, where they're strong, but also where their challenges are, where the present level of performance are. And then getting the help both for your child and for you. And we've got some things going on right now. One of the things we found in the pandemic is there are a lot of emotional regulation problems with kids. So, and Mira's also found a really effective working memory assessment. So we're offering a special between now and July 1. We have what's called this. You want to describe it, Mira?
Also, we have an assessment that takes an hour, and it's online, and for a 3rd grader and above, we're happy to be able to offer this to you. And I think your kids and you will find it fun. It looks at different processing speed and working memory and how they process information correctly, how they process it. And it also gives us a wonderful roadmap to be able to show you where they may be on level, where they may need some some help and where they excel. Some of these visual and spatial kids are really great at being able to put things together. And it's not a reading assessment. It truly is looking at executive function and working memory skills. And with that, we are actually offering this, what's called the Safe and Sound Protocol. It is an amazing program that's being used for all kinds of stress and anxiety, but it also really helps be able to help these kids regulate. It's a music program. You can listen to it with your own child, and we will coach you, but it's downloadable on a portable device on your phone so that you have it and that you can help your child within 10 days, help them regulate and be able to calm themselves down. And it works for the vagus nerve stimulation. It's truly a remarkable program.
And it's also something the parent can use because self-regulation for a lot of us is important too right now.
Right. Then we also have a comprehensive assessment that is given over actually a 3-hour period for kids that are 4th grade or above. It's a little over an hour for kids that are under 3rd grade. And that we are also giving the Safe and Sound Protocol too. But the comprehensive assessment really it's an assessment I've used for 25 years. I love it. It's called the Structure of Intellect. It actually looks at where kids are strong, where kids are weak, with some processing skills, but also with how with math and with language and with sequencing and pattern recognition, and really helps us be able to show where kids are missing some of those foundational skills that are just not being addressed. It's like it's so easy to be able to, some of you have spent a huge amount of money going for a comprehensive psychological exam, and then they sort of pick out the one thing. And it's the one thing that they pick out is, yes, the kids a lot of times have decoding issues. And so they go, okay, quick, I'm going to go directly to that. And what we have found, both from personal experience with our own kids, let alone personal experience with thousands of kids, is that sometimes that's not the thing to be able to address right away. It needs to be woven into all of these other foundational cognitive skills that need to be addressed. And if they're addressed simultaneously, it's amazing how the kids can have many more aha moments and feel so much more confident and have success come in in a relatively short amount of time.
Now, both these assessments can be done online, and the comprehensive assessment can also be done here at our facility. And if it's done at our facility here in Coral Springs, Florida, we also include a visograph, which looks at exactly how your child's eyes track when they're reading.
Right.
And the best way to start the conversation, because somebody asked me, isn't every child different? The answer is yes. And every parent's desires are different. So what we do is we offer a free conversation called a Stress to Success conversation. You can either call us at 561-361-7495, or it's actually 3dlearner.com/booknow, one word, to find a spot on our schedule, because you really want to understand this. Because one of the things about Mira, I call her an educational conductor. She's found a way to weave things together in a way which helps a child be far more successful. And we've had some conversations with students in the last month from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, one from 22 years ago. Okay. And they all say, you changed our lives. And the miracle of the process is that's what it's designed to do. It's designed to improve reading comprehension, executive function skills, visual processing, motor planning, attitude, and help you to be the coach and advocate your child needs.
Right.
So please, we encourage you to join us in a conversation, again, by calling us at 561-361-7495 or 3dlearner.com/booknow. Look forward to talking to you.
Thank you so much for sharing your time with us. We look forward to talking to you in the future. There is no question that is too small. Please don't hesitate to call us. We'll do our best to be able to answer or help you find the answer about where you need to go. Thanks again. Have a wonderful evening and a great week. Bye-bye.